In the 6th to 5th century BC, there were large numbers of wandering ascetics, sometimes in groups, caused perhaps by the breakup of the old tribal way of life and the rise of great kingdoms in ancient India. This was the time of the emergence of Buddhism, Jainism, and the Ajivikas. Vedic Brahmanism, which was centered on yajna, came under criticism by the 6th century BC. The Buddhists, for instance, denounced the sacrifice as violent and destructive. As the Vedic yajna was increasingly deemed inappropriate, and its critics found supporters from a range of social groups, those non-believers are called Sramanas. The Shramana tradition includes the Buddhists, the Ajivikas, the Jains, the Ajivika, and the Lokayatas. Nearchus, who travelled to India in the army of Alexander the Great in 326 BC, noticed Shramana traditions. The Greek ambassador Megasthenes, after living in India, confirmed this division into two main clusters. All of the Shramana schools catalogued in the Samanam Sutta have been identified. Brahmanical literature refers to the Shramana categorically as Nastika, the non-believers of Veda, the Astika being the believers of Veda. The Shramana were opposed in varying degrees to Vedic Brahmanism. They questioned the belief in deities, in the Vedas being divinely revealed, in the efficacy of the yajna, the ritual of sacrifice, and in the existence of the individual soul or Atman. Ajivika is one of the Nastika school of Indian philosophy. The exact nature of Ajivika doctrine is unclear because the sect's own texts have not survived. It is believed the original Ajivika texts were written in an Eastern Prakrit, perhaps similar to the Jain Prakrit Ardhamadhi. 3 Tamil texts, the Manimakalai of the Buddhists, the Nilakesi of the Jains, and the Sivagnana Siddhyar of the Saivasam, all contain outlines of Ajivika doctrine. We have indications to believe that Ajivikas practiced an ancient form of Saivasam, and their doctrines had some affinity with the ancient Pasupatha and Kala Muga sects. The Ajivikas probably wandered as naked monks, begging for alms in the villages and using magic and fortune-telling to attract people and gain their attention. It is believed that Bindusara, the father of Asoka, patronized Ajivikas and himself might have become an Ajivika in the later part of his life. The Bhagavati Sutras says that Ajivikas abstained from eating 5 kinds of fruits and also from eating roots. The Sthananga Sutra also describes the various kinds of austerities practiced by the Ajivikas. People of all castes and also women were allowed to enter the Ajivikas order. It is generally believed that the Ajivikas adhered to a severe form of asceticism. During initiation they remained nude and pulled out their hair. The early Buddhist texts at several places refer to the fact that Ajivika monks lived naked. According to another South Indian text, the Ajivikas denied the authority of the Vedas, practiced severe asceticism, kept their body dirty, gave up householder life, covered their nakedness with mat clothing, and carried in their hand a bunch of peacock feathers. Ajivikas believed in niyati rather than karma. According to this doctrine, the world evolves and moves in a predetermined way, like the unfolding of the design of a tree hidden in its seed. There is no place for free will in the events of the world or in the birth and death of living thing. Living beings in the world are not born on their own accord or according to their free will. Everything happens according to a predetermined plan based on its natural state and some fortuitous occurrence. Ajivikas believed that the number of souls was infinite. They also believed in the reincarnation of souls and cycles of creation. Ajivikas used dance and music to achieve ecstatic states of consciousness. They indulged in the resuscitation of the dead through esoteric practice of vital energy transference called Potta Parihara. The canon of the 8 books of the Ajivikas have been lost. Among them were 8 works called Mahanimitta or the Great Principles and works called Puvva. Much of what we know about this sect comes to us from the information we have about the life and teachings of Makkhali Gosala. Makkhali Gosala believed in niyati or predeterminism, which is more or less akin to what is more popularly known in the West as fatalism. Gosala said to have believed that the suffering and evil experienced by a living being came not from his previous karma but from the fate to which he was subject. The Ajivikas discounted all human effort. Everything came out of fate and nothing could be done to change it. So there was no use fighting against it. The Ajivika sect seems to have been quite old, as there are allusions to predecessors of Makkhali Gosala. The teachings of Gosala were supposed to have been compiled into an ancient Tamil text called Navakathi, fragments of which can now be found in the famous Tamil epic, Manimakalai. Tamil epic Nilakesi states that Gosala exhorted his disciples to abide by strict moral observances and that they observed silas, though they denied their efficacy. The South Indian Ajivikas seem to have made Gosala a deity called Markali. The Tamil epic Nilakesi says Markali has become a god who occasionally comes to earth to inspire the faith of his devotees. The doctrine of Markali Gosala consisted of 6 parts: gain, loss, happiness, sorrow, life, and death. These are the pairs of opposites, according to Buddhism and Jainism. While we are not sure in what context Markali Gosala used these principles, it is possible that he might have shown his followers the way to transcend them and achieve equanimity of the mind. Apart from Makkhali Gosala, Buddhist text Samanam Sutta connects the Ajivika doctrines with Purna Kasappa and Pahuta Kachina. According to Purna Kasappa, non-action is the way out of life. The Jain Sutras also attribute non-action theory to Purna. In the Jain Suyagada, Purna Kasappa is mentioned as an Arkyavadin. In the Tamil epic Nilakesi, Purna says, though we may speak of moments, there is really no time at all. This was the theory of unmoving permanence. No evil is caused by torture, hurting, or killing others. Similarly, no merit is acquired by generosity, self-control, or truthful speech. Humans cannot change anything through action, as everything is predetermined. Pahuta Kachina was the first to give the doctrine of atomism. Manimakalai gives the account of atomism proposed by him. Pahuta Kachina believed the elements in the universe are the combination of 7 basic elements: earth, air, water, fire, joy, sorrow, and life. The atoms also combine in a different ratio to form the elements. The concept that mental activities produce colors that are associated with the mind or with the soul itself is found at an early date in several religious traditions of South Asia. Scholars have speculated that this idea may have originated with the Ajivikas or that it was part of a body of knowledge shared by the mendicant communities. Ajivikas believed that human beings belong to one of 6 types of existence: black, blue, red, yellow, white, and pure white. The Ajivikas adopted this principle, increasing the number to 6 groups denoted by colors. All these typologists believed that man is born into the various groups as a result of fate and that a person is incapable of altering it by his own will or effort. Cursory examination of the list above reveals that these groups do not represent categories differing in physical appearance but denote people graded according to the degree of moral advancement judged by Ajivikas. History of the Ajivikas suggested that the doctrines of Markali Gosala, Purna Kasappa and Pahuta Kachina were aspects of a single body of teachings. The Ajivika school was entirely predeterministic, considering all human beings as going through an identical course of experiences, regardless of individual choices and actions. That all human beings repeat this sequential process again and again. Inscriptions from southern India make reference to the Ajivikas as late as the 14th century. Thus, the post-Makkhali history of the Ajivikas, ranging over 20 centuries, is to be conceived as a long and intricate process of religious development in India that ultimately led to the extinction of the sect. Ajivikas had a distinct message for Indian peoples. The history of the Ajivikas cannot be concluded without a general reflection on the course of Indian history, nor can the historian discharge his true function as historian without determining the place of the Ajivikas in the general scheme of Indian history as a whole.